Ladies and gentlemen, Boker Tov. Good to be here in the beautiful Gorn Chapel, and to see those of you who are watching also from home or wherever you happen to be. We'll begin our service on page 12 with the Birkot HaShachar, which we'll read responsibly. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan tekvivin alav kimen yom u'ben laila. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hokei hakivrim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam memekim mitzarig. Amen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'divarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter li'ayif koach. Page 14. Baruch atah Adonai mamed Torah l'amo Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah. On page 17, we'll read responsibly. In the fulfillment of the following mitzvot, no fixed measure is imposed. With regard to the fulfillment of the following mitzvot, we enjoy their fulfillment in this life, while an ongoing joy results even unto eternity. We turn to page 18 for the Kaddish to Rabbanan. Mourners and those observing yahrzeit, please rise. Page 18. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shamei Rabbah, ve'alma divara kirutei v'yamlik malkutei, v'chai kol v'yomei kol v'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudisha v'richu. Le'ela min kol birkata v'shirata, tushbekata v'nekemata, damiran be'alma v'yimeru. Amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidei Hon, ve'al kol Talmidei Hon, ve'al kol man le'askin be'oraita, divyatra hadein v'dive kol atar v'atar. Yehi lahon u'lechon shlamar haba, hina v'kizda v'rakamin, v'chayin narikin mozona revika, ufurkana min kadam avuhon levishmaya v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shlamar rabba min shemaya, v'chayin tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Osei shalom b'lomam, hu berachamav ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. As we're seated, we continue reading responsibly on page 21. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have raised me up and have not allowed my adversaries to overcome me. O Lord, you saved me from the peril of death and kept me alive. Your anger is but for a moment, while your favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may come upon us at night, but joy comes in the morning. O Lord, in your kindness you granted me mountains of strength, but when you turned away from me, I became frightened. What profit is there if I die and go to the nether world? Can dust praise you? Can lifeless beings declare your truths? Then you did turn my mourning into dancing, undoing my sackcloth and robing me in gladness. Page 22. יחיד כעולמים מלך משובח ומפואר על ידי עד שמו הגדול ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מכולל בתשבחות. Page 24. Hallelujah, 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 el bekvasho, hallelujah, berkia uzo, hallelujah, begolotav, hallelujah, keron gudlo, hallelujah, beteka shofar, hallelujah, betnevel bekinon, hallelujah, betov makol, hallelujah, bemilim meyukav, hallelujah, hallelujah, betzilzel shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, betzilzel etruam, kol ha-neshamat, hallelujah, 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 kol ha-neshamat, hallelujah, 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 yishtabach shim galad malkeinu. Melachot v'avdaot me'ata be'ad olam, baruch atah Adonai, el melech gadol betishbachot, el havdaot Adonai niflaot, aboker v'shirei zimra, melech elkei ha'olamim, yitkalal v'yitkalash merva, yalma nivra kirutei v'yalmik malchutei, b'kayechol v'yamechol v'kayechol beit Yisrael, agalav yizman kari v'melu, amen. Yehi shemer amam leolam olam me'almaya, yitvalak yishtabak yitvoam yitomam yitnaseh, yitadav yitalev yitalal, shmeir kudeshav riku, le'ela min kol birkata v'shirata, u'shmekata v'nekemata, damiran v'yalma v'imelu, amen. Malchu et Adonai melech haolam yotzer or v'recho shekoseh shalom v'oret hakol. Page 30. וכולם פותחים את פיהם מקדושת ההונה בשירה ובזמרה ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומעריצים ומגישים וממליכים. להקדיש יוצרה מנחת רוח בשפה ברורה בנימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים מהירה. קדוש קדוש קדוש. והאופנים וחיות הקודש ורעש גדול מתנשאים לעומת תרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים. Page 32, לאל. עוד הקדש על ציון העיר ונזכה כולנו מהרה לעולו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות, אבל עברת לנו. וקרבתנו לשמחה הגדול של האמת, להודות לך ולהכירך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוקר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך מכל לבבך וכל נפשך וכל מאודך, והיו הדברים Asher Elohim Etzavka Yom Al Levavecha Veshinandam Levanecha V'dibarta Ba'am V'shivdecha B'veitecha U'v'lektecha B'derek U'v'shokbecha U'v'komecha U'kshartam leot al yadecha V'hayu letodafot b'neinecha U'kravtam al mezuzot beitecha U'b'sharecha. Proceeded, we continue quietly, page 36 through page 39. Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 43 again, we read responsibly. True and precious, beautiful and sanctifying has your teaching been to our people, O Lord, from generation to generation. For us, as for our ancestors, your true faith is of enduring strength. It is the crown of life, the pledge of eternity. You appeared in days of old to our people as the faithful Redeemer, rescuing them from bondage, lifting them up from despair, and infusing them with renewed life and hope. Tehilon el Elyon, Malchum Malach, Moshe u'bnei Israel, Lechanu Shira, Besimcha Rava, V'amru Kulam, Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha, Nedan ba'kodesh, Nodat Tehilot Osef. Shira Kadasha, Shira Kugeulim Neshimcha al Sefat Hayam, Yakad Kulam Hudu Ve'im Liko Ve'ameru, Adonai Imlot Le'olam Va'ed. Tzur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, U'b'dek Mecha Yehuda Ve'Yisrael, Kohalenu Adonai Shvaot Shemot Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai Yal Yisrael. Page 44. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGivor Adonai El Elyon, Govel Chasadim Krovim V'konei HaKol, V'zoker Chasdei Avot, U'mevi Goel Ibnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Hosel Moshir Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Givor Le'olam Adonai, Mekayem Ekim Acharav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'morid HaGashem, Mekalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mekayem Ekim B'rakamim Rabim, Tzomeg Noflim B'rofei Cholim U'matir Azurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבולות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיע ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, נקיה המתים. וקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום הכתוב היה למי יקר וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך כל הארץ כבודו למעתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור מלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש עליו ועד יהיה מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue the Amidah quietly through page 62, Hebrew or English. יתגדל ויתקדש ודבר יעמד ורקירותי במק מלכותי וחיי כל ובימי כל ובחיי בישראל והגלה בזמן קריב ואימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולם מעלמי יתברך וישתבח יתפורה ויתרמה ויתנשא ויתדע ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשה ברכו לאל אמין כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבקתה ונקמתה דמדן בעלמה ואימרו אמן תתקבל אצלות עול ועדות לכל ישראל כדר והון משמיים ואימרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה משמיים וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו והוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו amen. So our first real encounter with Abraham begins this week's parsha, Lech Lecha. God gives his first command to Abraham. God said to Abraham, Lech Lecha, leave your land, leave your birthplace, and leave your father's house. Go to the land that I will show you. We then read, so Abraham went as God had spoken. So what would be an understandable reaction of someone reading this biblical narrative for the first time? Say they'd never heard of it. They might say to themselves, who the heck is this Abraham guy? The only thing we know about him from earlier in the Torah is where he was born and who his father was and who his brothers were, and that he chose Sarah to be his wife. Nothing is said in the Torah to describe this guy who plays such a pivotal role in the creation of the Jewish people. So for whatever reason, we are meant to meet an anonymous Abraham. In other words, someone that we really don't know anything about. The background of the man who's commanded to leave everything and relocate to an unnamed place to literally get going, which is sort of what Lech Lecha means, remains shrouded in secrecy and mystery. Could it be that nothing's mentioned because there's nothing in his past really worth talking about? We don't really know that for a fact, but the Midrash rushes in and tells us some things to fill in the gaps. It tells us that at the age of 3, Abraham had already recognized the existence of one God, in contrast to all of his neighbors who were all pagans and worshiping idols. He then devoted his life to spreading the message of monotheism, no small challenge in a pagan world. The Midrash also relates that King Nimrod had him thrown into a fiery furnace for his refusal to denounce his belief in the one God, and he was saved by God through a miracle. With time and with dedication, he went on to successfully reach countless pagans and transform them into believers. That's quite the resume if you read the Midrash. But again, wouldn't the actual biblical narrative, what we're reading in the Torah, flow better if it told us a little more about the main character? Why was he singled out to begin the story of the Jewish people? What earned him that enormous privilege, that responsibility to be God's partner in such a historic covenant? Ironically, if we look further, we learn that it is from Abraham's own obscurity that the definition of a Jew emerges. Until God revealed himself to Abraham, it was Abraham who had chosen God. Until that point, Abraham had intuited the existence of God through his observance of God's creation. But however brilliant he was limited by his humanity, his human existence, and therefore he wasn't able to reach past himself and connect to an unlimited God who is so far beyond our understanding. But from the moment God revealed God's self to Abraham, a connection was formed between them. At that moment, Abraham was chosen by God. Until that point, he had known God in his mind. From that point onward, he knew God in his soul. He felt God in his kishkas, so to speak. Until that moment, he had understood that God existed. Now he actually experienced God's presence. So just a moment ago, we asked why Abraham's past would be ignored by the Torah. Wouldn't the knowledge of his discovery of God and the sacrifices he made for God throughout his life help to deepen our admiration for this guy? Maybe, but it might also have caused us to miss one of the points of the story. The story was recorded in the Torah not so much for us to learn about Abraham's life, but to learn about our own. In these few verses, a Jew and his religion are defined, and that definition is given as much by what is left out as by what is included in the story. Abraham's childhood discovery of God was deliberately omitted so that we wouldn't mistake Judaism as a faith based only on knowledge. A Jew who knows more about his heritage may appreciate being Jewish more than those with less knowledge, but he isn't more Jewish than they are, which is why the terms good Jew and bad Jew should be deleted from our Jewish lexicon. We often hear people say, I'm a bad Jew, I'm not a good Jew. The discussion of Abraham's many virtues are absent from the Torah to teach us that religious observance, as important as it is, does not create one's connection to God. It only enhances it and reveals the connection that already exists ever since God revealed God's self to Abraham. If we had been told of Abraham's lofty service to God and his discovery of God as a youth, we may have walked away thinking that God chose him due to his devotion, and worse, that God chooses us based on ours. In other words, Judaism describes a person's identity, not their performance. Sometimes we tell ourselves, we hear people say this all the time, that before getting more involved in Judaism and in a Jewish life, we have to learn more about it. We should take classes. We should read books. We should watch videos, TED Talks about Judaism, learn about it, know how to put on tefillin, know how to do all these things that everybody else sees, when to stand up, when to sit down, things like that. We should take classes, we should read books. It's all very commendable, but it's also kind of wrong. Judaism is a birthright with no need to be acquired. We don't need to acquire Judaism, we already have it. There's no such thing as a Jew who is more or less Jewish. You either are or you aren't. A Jew is not a verb, a Jew is a noun. We're all Jews no matter what our observance is, what our knowledge is, and we should look at ourselves and others through that lens. Happy Wednesday. Continue our service on page 76 with Ashrei. So divide the room right here. Begin on this side. Ashrei Ashrei Beiteka, Od Yalelu Chasela, Ashrei Am Shekakalo, Ashrei Am Shadano Eloham, Gilad David, Aramim Kailohai HaMelech, Yavelka Shimcha Leolam Baed, Ekol Yamavada Keka, Vahalada Shimcha Leolam Baed, Gadol Adonai Kulan Me'od, Veligulato Ein Teker, Kol Eloy Shabbat Maseka, Gvuroteka Yagidu, Adar Kavod Hodeka, Vedivrei Nifloteka Asika, Ezuz Neroteka Yomeru, Dulatcha Asafrena, Zeker Avtuka Yaviu, Vetzitkatka Yadanenu, Kanun Berakum Adonai, Ereka Pai Mugdal Chased, Tov Adonai Lakol, Berakamav Al Kol Masav, Yoduk Adonai Kol Maseka, Vekasidek Yavadekuka, Kevod Malkutcha Yodenu, Ugeburatcha Yadavenu, Lehodia Livnei Hadam Geburotav, Ukevod Hadar Malkuto, Malkuteka Malkut Kol Olamim, Umemshalteka Bekol Dor Vador, Shomek Adonai Lekol Hanoklim, Bezokef Lekol Hakufim, Einei Kol Eleka Yisabelu, Ve'ata noten lahem et oklam be'ito, Oteach et yadeka, Umaspir lekol chai ratzon, Tzadik Adonai bekol elakav, Vekatzid bekol masav, Arov Adonai lekol korav, Lekol asher yikra'u be'emet, Letzon Yereav Yaseh, Ve'et Shabbatam Yishma v'Yoshiem, שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, את כל הרשעים ישמיד. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה, ואתה ביד עולם. הללויה. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כאויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגול עלינו ככל העולם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים שהחונד השמיים ויוצר הארץ. אין עוד. הכתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. נאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Pause at this time to call to mind those of our beloved departed whose yardsides are observed today, the 7th day of Cheshvan. Dorothy Bogdanoff, Nathan L. Cohen, Max M. Ellison, Esther Fruman, Dora Glassman, Barbara F. Goldman, Donald Kahn, Benno Lauer, Estelle Levine, Ida Leiner, Helen McCauley, Wolf Harry Omansky, Bernard Philip Pinsky, William Rubin, Israel Ruddle, Gussie Siegel, Hinda Silver, Nathan Sinofsky, Celia Wiener, Sarah Zlotowitz. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May their righteous memories continue to bring blessings into our lives, and let us say Amen. In solemn testimony to the unbroken chain of faith that we believe links our generations, those in mourning, those observing yahrzeit now rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, page 82. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divara kirutei v'yamlik malkutei, v'chayekon v'yomekon v'kaye d'kol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitvarach v'yishtarach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei de'kudisha v'richu de'ela min kol birkata v'shirata tushbekata v'nekemata damiran be'alma v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'ivromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimeru. Amen. As we're seated, we turn to page 90 and 91 for the Psalm for Wednesday. Hayom yom revi'i v'shabbat, shebo hayol v'mamrim bebeit hamikdash. God of retribution, Lord, God of retribution, appear. How long shall the wicked, O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult? Shall they utter insolent speech? Shall all evildoers vaunt themselves? Take heed, you most brutish people. Fools, when will you get wisdom? Shall God who disciplines nations not punish? The God who instructs men in knowledge? The Lord knows the designs of men to be futile. For you will not forsake your people. You will not abandon your very own. Who will take my part against evil men? Who will stand up for me against wrongdoers? Were not the Lord my help, I should soon dwell in silence. When I am filled with cares, your assurance soothes my soul. They band together to do away with the righteous. They condemn the innocent to death. You will make their evil recoil upon them, annihilate them through their own wickedness. The Lord our God will annihilate them. El Gadol Adonai, Melech Gadol, Al Kol Elohim. As always, we conclude our service on page 82 with the final recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach Yirutei v'yamlik malkutei, v'chai kol v'yomei kol v'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv yimeru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya. Yitvarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha v'richu de'ela min kol birkata v'shirata tushbekata v'nekemata damiran be'alma v'yimaru, amen. Yehi shlamar rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. Oseh shalom v'bavad, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. Have a wonderful day today, everyone. Take care. Ruftieh. I don't want all of your casual conversations to be picked up. I don't want all your casual conversations to be picked up on the microphone. Hasta shalom. Okay. Playing golf today?
No.
Bad.
But I'm playing tomorrow and Thursday and Friday.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You need to practice.
And then I've got a tournament Sunday, Monday,
Oh,
Tuesday.
yeah, which tournament?
I belong to a club in Virginia that does a national invitational.
Really?
And I'm playing for the club, my club in Virginia.
Okay.
So, so it's clubs from all over the country.
A team?
Yeah, it's a 4-man team.
Nice.
We play against Sawgrass and Baltusrol and Cypress Point, Old Memorial, Honors Club, all over the country.
Great.
So yeah, they'll be coming in. So I'll be doing that the beginning of the week.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be.
Good.
So
Enjoy.
it'll be a lot of fun.
You deserve it. You earned it.
I'm trying to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Hey, we only go around once. We better enjoy and play some golf.
Exactly. What was that, Budweiser? You only go around once in life.
That's it.
You gotta go for the gusto. No, what was the gusto? Schaefer? There's one beer that was that
Yeah, I
had go for
remember.
the gusto.
Yeah. I don't remember who. I haven't heard that commercial in ages.
I know. I don't think that beer exists anymore.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care of
See
yourself.
ya.
Did you enjoy the game, son?
I was on the plane flying back
Oh.
and watching. It's unbelievable.
Daughter and her husband were there. It seems like they're doing it every week. You know, the first half is lousy, and then they come back somehow. And Lamar, like,
The fourth quarter and all was unbelievable. Lamar was on fire. He couldn't miss.
maybe Lamar snorts a line of coke during the halftime or something. I don't know. Wakes him up.
That was
Yeah, it really was. My daughter was there with her husband. Yeah,
Yeah, that was great. So were my kids.
great.
See ya.
Take care.
See ya.
Beware. Take care. And go down on tiptoe.